Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another live, soon-to-be podcast. We're going to finish up today. I believe we'll get it all done. The metabolic syndrome and what to do if you want to be part of the 12%. Okay, good morning, Rosa and Keith. And Lisa, you know what I wanted to ask too? Nativity, if there's anyone here this morning for the first time, Nick, Marin, say hello and just let me know that this is your first time watching. Sherry, good morning to you. Our friend Keith in Windsor, and Farida from Ottawa. And good morning from Wasaga Beach, beautiful area. Pam, Carol Ann, how are you? Jerry, Gloria, Samuel. I got a son-in-law I call Samuel. And Brenda, Maria. Guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Elaine, Patricia. So if anybody is for Guylaine, bonjour. And Vonda from PEI. Good morning to you. Palarco and Joanne. Josephine from Hamilton. Clyde from Whitehorse, Yukon. Man, oh man, it must be beautiful there right now, isn't it? And Singhampton, hold on, let me say hello to you too. Yolande and Jean and Monica, but Linda, where the heck is Singhampton? I'm not sure. Okay. So anyways, good to be on with you this morning, and I appreciate it. Hey, big crowd on already. And that's, again, is great. Okay, Jackie from Manitoba. Okay, so we've been doing a little mini series on metabolic syndrome. Let me go over that. What is metabolic syndrome? Just to do a little review. Metabolic syndrome is really characterized by one main thing, and that is insulin resistance, okay? So if you Google it, it'll tell you that insulin resistance is, you might not even see it on the list, but that's the cause of metabolic syndrome, okay? So it's food. Don't ever forget that. It's food. Metabolic syndrome comes from food. Creates inflammation in your body. Inflammation starts to affect the body in many, many ways. And what I've tried to explain in the last few days, the areas that get hit the most, it's every organ gets hit by metabolic syndrome, but where does it start? Well, obviously, it starts with insulin. That means your pancreas. And metabolic syndrome it's almost like a new phenomenon because of the world that we live in. And this is why it's so important to understand that we never seen metabolic syndrome. We never characterized metabolic syndrome, let's say 50 years ago. And the reason is because our diets were much different than they are today. We don't realize, I always say that, like I had cookies and ice cream as a kid, but today everything is laced with sugar. And especially one of the things that I haven't talked about, and I just want to mention it, is that we drink way too much sugar today. The worst way to get sugar is to drink it. From fruit juices, still the number one drink in North America is orange juice. That is sugar, guys, on steroids. Sugar on steroids. Because God meant you to, if you're going to have fruit, God meant you to eat it, not drink it. Okay? So if you see Dr. Martin's Perfect Smoothie, the only thing I'm allowing you in there is a few berries. I don't want you to put a banana in there. I don't want you to sweeten it too much, because you're going to drink it. It's going to spike your blood sugar. But with berries, you won't get much insulin. You need a little bit of insulin, but not much. Okay, so that's why, if you're asking me why I allow that. Now, if you're doing the reset, do the smoothie without the berries. Okay? I don't want no fruit for 30 days, and I have a reason for that. And so that I completely empty out your liver. Because as I was mentioning yesterday, the organ that gets damaged the most, and I posted that CTV article that came from I think the Canadian Medical Journal, if I'm not mistaken, is the alarming statistics of fatty liver. It's a big, big, big problem today. And again, just a little bit of repetition, reminding you that in my medical textbooks, there was no such thing as non-alcoholic fatty liver. It wasn't there. We didn't see it. And that is, if you think about that, that is absolutely incredible, guys. This is incredible that we have an epidemic today. We have an epidemic today that's getting very little attention. It's shocking how little attention it's getting. But it is destroying really the fabric of our society. You know, we've had a I never thought I would see it in my lifetime, but we saw the world shut down over a virus. And it's still today, you know, and I see people, you know, and again, I get it, but you see the numbers. My brother and I were discussing that last night, that you still see the numbers, you know. Well, so many cases. Every day, if I look on my local news, they're telling you how many cases there are in our community, or in Canada, and then in the United States and the world. It's almost like it's like you're watching the stock market. You see these numbers, like it's the media love it. I get it. I understand it. It's like a business for them, you know. And people, you know, and I'm interested in how many people are dying, you know, and now we're going to have to accept the new normal, you know. My son showed me an article yesterday that in Canada, once you start wearing a mask, like I'm wondering if they're ever going to get rid of it. It's just part of our new normal. Anyways, all I'm saying about that is, okay, the world is focused in on a virus, but they should be focused in on metabolic syndrome. It's the thing that's killing people. The hospitals are full again. Not of COVID. Of people with metabolic syndrome. Because if you go to the hospital and you have heart disease, why do you have heart disease? It's metabolic syndrome. Why do you have high blood pressure? Why do you have atherosclerosis? Cancer. The vast majority is lifestyle. I get it, genetics, and they're looking at all these things. And if your mommy had breast cancer, that makes you more susceptible. No, it doesn't. Only by 2%. It's not genetics. And even if it is, you can override your genetics. I got bad genetics. Look at this face. I look like my father. I got bad genetics. My dad was a diabetic. But oh boy, he was the most disciplined person. He he overrided his genetics. He had it from my grandfather. We were bad diabetics. Lots of cancer in my family. Lots of cancer. And you might live in a family where you got lots of genetics for heart disease and whatever. Yeah, it makes you a little bit more susceptible, I agree. But you can't control where you come from. You can't control your genetics. What you can control is metabolic syndrome. You can control it. You can reverse it. And this is why I get it. You look at, like I was saying earlier, well, the pharmaceutical industry, they're not into fixing it. There's no pill to fix metabolic syndrome. There's no pill. There never will be. There's no pill. It's food. It's food. The new poison is sugar. I always, part of my PhD in nutrition was looking at the history of nutrition, the history of food. It was fascinating. And of course, it's ongoing. I never stopped learning, but I couldn't get over, like if you looked at heart disease 100 years ago, it was less than 5% of the population had heart disease. It was almost non-existent. People died. Well, we didn't have antibiotics. There were no antibiotics. So when they got an infection, if their immune system wasn't good enough, they died. And again, I'm not, you might think I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. I'm not telling you. You get hit by a bus and you need an antibiotic because of possibility of infection. Use an antibiotic. I'm not against that. I'm 100% for that. God bless the pharmaceutical companies that came up with antibiotics. I got no problem with that. All I'm saying is, 100 years ago, this is a fact. There was very little heart disease. It's the way it is. There was very little cancer. There was cancer, but there was very little of it. That's not what people died from. We coined a phrase years ago, inflammation or without fever. Because inflammation, 80 years ago, or even up to about 50 years ago, came from your body's immune system. And you got a fever. And your fever would go after viruses or bacteria. But today you have inflammation without a fever. This is the result of metabolic syndrome. So a little physiology, just to remind you of this. It's very important because people are just not talking about this. Generally, you won't hear much about it. There are doctors like me that talk about it, but there's not many. And they're still into, let's manage. Like diabetes. It's such a big industry. Let's manage it. And if I was a CEO of a pharmaceutical company, and my shareholders are going, what have you done for me lately there? What do you think they're doing? They're coming out with metformin and metformin-like drugs to help you to control your blood sugar and pee out your blood sugar. But you have to take that one step backwards. Diabetes is food. It's food. It's carbs. Crappy carbs. Sugar. I read stuff every day on diabetes and I go, are people, have you lost your minds? That, 50% of the population are obese, and we're not talking about that? 50% of the population have high blood pressure, and we only want to manage it? 50% are, this is according to the CDC. These statistics give me high blood pressure, just reading them. And only 12% of the population are metabolically healthy. Guys, this is a national crisis. This is the greatest threat to our security that you can think of. It's not the Russians or the Chinese. They're a threat. I think especially the Chinese. Okay? They're a threat. Cyber warfare and, are they watching us? I don't know. All I know is, but the elephant in the room is metabolic syndrome. And it's the reason I talk to you about it. Every day I'm going to talk to you about it. I'll drum it in so that we understand. And, I just answered a few emails this morning, and I was telling the ones who sent me questions, I don't care how old you are. Oh, Doc, I'm 70 years old. Can I change? You can change in 30 days. You can change your habits. This is why after 46 years of practice, I can tell you, took enough psychology just to be dangerous. But one thing I learned in human psychology, it takes 3 weeks to form a habit. 3 weeks, 21 days. And that's why, after a week, oh, Doc, on the reset, I kind of feel a little nauseous or whatever. I said, get over it. Your body is changing. You were an addict. Put your hand up. My name is Tony and I'm a carboholic. And if you're a carboholic and you do the reset, it's simple, but it's not easy. It's not easy to make big changes in your life. But I don't care how obese or how much of a diabetic a person is and how much insulin they're using or metformin or all the other medications. If you change your diet, your body is unbelievable, fearfully and wonderfully made. And that's how you fix metabolic syndrome. If you don't change your diet, you can't fix it. It's impossible. You can manage. You want to manage your blood pressure? Well, take blood pressure medication. It'll manage it. Oh, Doc, my blood pressure is good ever since I took the pill. Yeah, but you're just fooling yourself. Because the destructive metabolic syndrome and inflammation that you don't even know is there is damaging your blood vessels as you speak. As I speak. There's a process going on in the body called atherosclerosis, and it affects the endothelial level of the Teflon in your blood vessels, and you don't know it because the only symptom you had was, the only thing that your body was screaming was, hello, high blood pressure, or here's another one, acid reflux. Your body's going, Hello? Hello? Wake up. I'm trying to get your attention. What is acid reflux? It's a symptom of too much insulin. Yeah? It's your body screaming at you. Screaming. I like to get to the bottom line, folks. That's where I come from. I'm at the bottom line. I'm a reverse engineer guy. I've done it all my therapeutic life. I'm a reverse engineer guy. Why do you have what you have? If you're a diabetic, you're a carboholic. It's as simple as that. And some people get away with it a little more than others, but it doesn't matter. Your body will do everything it can in its power to keep your blood sugar in a very tightly regulated range. Oh, Dr. Martin, my blood sugar is normal. Yeah, but that doesn't mean your insulin is any good. Because your body's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Don't wait just for numbers. The last thing that happens, in most people, the last thing that happens is diabetes, where your blood sugar has gone over 7, for example. That's the last thing to happen. But there's been a lot of damage before that. And it was in your liver, where you're restoring way too much glycogen. You can reverse it. That's the good news. And every time, and I look for news behind the news so that I can bring you information. Here we have, and I'm just going to mention one more time before I give you the last of the list that I want to give you this morning, okay? On metabolic syndrome, like what to do. Just remember, okay? Just remember that your body is made to thrive. You need to give it the right tools. And you can change everything. Start on the track. You know, I always use the example of the Titanic. Who am I? I'm the SS Californian. Who am I? I'm the SS California. Get out of the water. You're going towards an iceberg. Get off. Change course. That's me. That's my whole goal. And when we talk about COVID, I'll mention it again for the last time. Not the last time. I'll talk about it again. No, but what I'm saying is, COVID, the only people that were getting sick, were, I know, like they're worried about sending kids back to school, for heaven's sakes. They're not getting sick. Kids don't get sick. Oh, yeah, but they're going to bring it home to grandma and grandpa and whatever. No, they don't do that. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't fit the narrative. So anyway, I don't want to get off on that, but it just bugs me when I hear stupidity. And I'm asking teachers, you're professionals. You ought to be standing up. Encourage. All the people that worked in the grocery stores and all the people that worked in all the other industries, they went to work. Teachers, go to work. Start the schools up. These kids are going to they don't worry about COVID. Worry about everything else about children and their mental health. They need to get back to their normal life. New normal. What are you going to do? Put a mask on them all day long? It's insanity. Anyway, okay. I'm going to get into trouble. Okay, so we talked about eat red meat. You want to get rid of metabolic syndrome? Eat red meat. Eggs, meat, and cheese. Fish. You can live on it. You can live on it. Let me just say something about food just for a second again. I have to. You can live on eggs, meat, and cheese the rest of your life. Every nutrient that you need, that you need is in that group that I just mentioned. Every phytonutrient, every macro is there. All your vitamins are there in the animal kingdom. Now, I know that's not online, and I'm not even suggesting you do it, although some people, I would tell them, hey, you don't do well with any carbohydrate. Remember, if your brain needs sugar, when you eat steak, your body will turn that steak into sugar if it's needed. And people don't realize that. But you can't convince me. If you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you are going to have to supplement the rest of your life. You're missing so many things. The list is almost, you can hardly end the list of what you're missing. And I'm not saying don't eat fruits or vegetables. We've talked about this. I'm just telling you that you cannot live properly without major supplementation. That, you know, and your grandchildren that are coming home indoctrinated, and they think that it's good to be a vegetarian or a vegan, and they watch Netflix, and Netflix tells them that too. Well, it ain't true. It's an agenda. And it's not true. It's not science. It's the farthest thing from science. It's a religion, folks. And I will call it out all the time. And it costs me because even some of my colleagues, they can't handle that. Well, I said, you're drinking the Kool-Aid. It's not normal. You have to go back to science and realize that when you're not eating eggs, meat, and cheese, like they're just some things that you can't get. They're not in the plant kingdom. As good as plants are, they're just stuff that's not in there. You have to know that. You have to know that. If that bothers some people, if I say that, and I know it does, so be it. I will tell you the truth, and I don't apologize for it. It doesn't make me popular in some circles, but I'm going to tell you anyways. Very important to fix metabolic syndrome. It's almost impossible to fix metabolic syndrome if you're a vegetarian or a vegan. It's almost impossible. And metabolic syndrome is at the root of all the big killers today. At the root of it. And this is why I'm preaching it. Okay, quickly. I'm going to give you my list, by the way, which is posted at the Martin Clinic Facebook group. It's there. Okay, so let me just finish the list. So I talked about, we got the 3 things. 1, eat red meat, eggs, meat, and cheese. 2, avoid sugar like the plague. 1 is positive, eat these foods. The other one is negative, stop eating sugar. If you do nothing else, if you don't do anything else, cut out the sugar in your diet and you will help your body like you would not believe. Get rid of that poison. Sugar is the new smoking. By the way, stop smoking. That's on the list. It's obvious, isn't it? It's obvious. I feel like going down a rabbit trail just for a second. Can I do that? You guys probably know this answer, but I got to ask the question. What is still the number one cancer in our society today. Someone tell me, I've asked you this before, so I'm just going to, if you've listened in the past, you might know this. And for the new folks, you might not know this. The number one cancer is, and I don't want to scroll too much because I'm so scared when I touch the screen, I'll lose you. Lung cancer. Still, there was, just to prove my point, guys, the cancer rates in the 80s and lung cancer went down temporarily. They did. You know why? Because most people, not all people, of course, but most people got the memo. Stop smoking. They put it on the cigarette packs and they did it on advertising. And every doctor in the world was telling all their patients, stop smoking. And everybody heard the message. That didn't always listen, but most, there was a huge dent in the tobacco industry, which was good. And what happened? Well, in the 1980s, this is a fact, lung cancer went down. And some other cancers went down too, a little bit. Wow, it really worked. Stop smoking. But you know what happened? Something took over and became the new smoking. Sugar and crappy carbs and the vegetable oils. When I say crappy carbs, go to the middle aisles of your grocery store. From the cookies to the crackers to the hydrogenated oils that, the vegetable oils, the canolas and the safflowers and the grapeseed oils and all these oils that they used to preserve and to make these things. Crisco, shortening. It created it created the same thing that smoking did. And sugar. You know what it does? It creates aldehydes. The same thing that your smoking did. Free radical damage in the form of aldehydes. And it was getting into the lungs the same way that now sugar does and destroys the lungs and makes you much more susceptible to lung cancer, just as if you were smoking. That finding is so significant. I'm writing about it in my new book right now. It is so significant, but you would have to scour. You wouldn't find it in a medical journal or whatever. You wouldn't believe the amount of research that I had to do to find out why there was so much lung cancer today. Because people thought it was the environment. And, partially that's partially true. But it isn't that. It's aldehydes from free radical damage, which is coming from sugar and crappy carbohydrates. Well, here we go again, folks. It's metabolic syndrome, really, in a different name. That is astounding. That is a finding that should be preached from the mountaintops. The scientific community should be screaming it. Oh, but folks, I'll tell you what, you need to understand the politics of this. The vested interest that has taken over medicine, that has taken over research, that has taken over the that the pharmaceutical industry has created, and so has the big food companies in cahoots to keep you ignorant, to keep us ignorant, to keep managing disease and not trying to prevent it. And our whole political system in Canada and the United States has gone for it hook, line, and sinker. Let's manage disease. Let's manage it. And no talk of let's prevent it. Anyway, guess what? I didn't get to the rest of the list. I'm not sure what I'll do tomorrow because I wanted to talk about exercise, how that affects metabolic syndrome, how sleep affects metabolic syndrome, how coffee affects metabolic syndrome. I'm not sure I'll do it tomorrow. I'll see. Anyway, okay, so Friday is question and answer Friday. So we're only 2 days away. Get your questions in. Don't be shy. I'm here to answer your questions. If there's any topics that you would like me to touch on, I know some of you send me some very interesting things to talk about. Happy to do it. Send them along. Okay? And again, if you're not part of the Martin Clinic private Facebook group, please join in with that group. A wonderful group. And I'm on there all the time. And I know our staff are on there all the time answering questions. So we're happy to do it. And you'll get lots of recipe ideas and whatever. Okay, so once again, thanks for watching and God bless you. Have a great day.